Honorable
is this
Malema,
one.
leave the chamber.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm elected here.
We will assist you to go.
Wait.
In a move that has sent tremors through Western diplomatic circles, Julius Malema, South Africa's firebrand revolutionary, has publicly thrown his weight behind Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the rising military leader of Burkina Faso. But this is more than just a handshake or a headline. It's the beginning of a bold political alliance that could shake the balance of power across Africa. As Malema prepares to land in Ouagadougou, the message is crystal clear. This is a united front against U.S. influence, foreign intervention, and the long-standing structures of neo-colonial control. Two men, young, defiant, and unapologetically African, are positioning themselves not only as national leaders, but as symbols of a continental resistance. But what's really behind this partnership? What do Traoré and Malema hope to achieve? And is this the birth of a new Pan-African axis? Or the spark that could ignite fresh tensions between Africa and the West? Today, we dive into the geopolitics, the ideology, and the raw energy fueling this unlikely but powerful alliance. The winds of change are blowing in West Africa, and they're blowing with force. This is a story the world cannot afford to ignore. A revolutionary brotherhood, Malema and Traoré's unexpected alliance. When Julius Malema, the firebrand South African political leader and founder of the Economic Freedom Fighters, EFF, landed in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso's capital, it wasn't merely a diplomatic courtesy, it marked the birth of a formidable Pan-African alliance. Welcomed by the revolutionary leader Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the atmosphere sizzled with symbolism and intent. Their meeting was not one of political pleasantries, but a rallying cry against a long legacy of Western dominance on the continent. Both leaders are known for their outspoken disdain for foreign meddling. Malema, with his scathing critiques of Western imperialism and global financial institutions like the IMF, and Traoré, with his unapologetic stance against French neo-colonialism in the Sahel. When they embraced, it wasn't just a photo opportunity, it was a signal to the world that a new African resistance is taking shape, led by a youth-driven movement tired of inherited chains. Their joint rhetoric struck a defiant tone: no more exploitation, no more imposed debts, and no more silence. They called for economic liberation, regional solidarity, and the reclamation of Africa's destiny. The West, long accustomed to a fragmented and compliant Africa, is now watching a potential continental shift unfold. To many young Africans, this moment felt like history in motion. Two sons of the soil standing shoulder to shoulder, daring to dream of a future where Africa speaks for itself. Whether it was a beginning or a spark, one thing is clear: Malema and Traoré are not asking for permission. Traoré, the military maverick standing up to giants, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, just 35 years old, defies the mold of traditional African leadership. Rising to power through a military coup in 2022, he quickly made it clear that he wouldn't be dictated to by foreign powers. Traoré tore up long-standing military agreements with France, ousted UN peacekeepers, and declared an uncompromising war on terrorism, one crafted by Burkina Faso for Burkina Faso. His bold moves, though controversial, sent a clear message. The era of neo-colonial interference was over. Under his leadership, Burkina Faso has repositioned itself not as a passive player in global politics, but as a sovereign actor charting its own course. While Western media have tried to brand him a populist or authoritarian strongman, to Julius Malema, he represents something else entirely: a new model of African leadership, unshackled and unapologetic. That's why Malema's visit to Ouagadougou was far more than ceremonial. It was calculated and symbolic. In Traoré, Malema sees a partner in the fight for African self-determination. Their meeting cemented an emerging axis of resistance, one that challenges the dominance of Western influence and envisions a future built by Africans, for Africans. Malema's message: Africa first, West last. In a fiery speech delivered to an energized crowd of Burkinabe youth, Julius Malema unleashed a bold critique of Western imperialism, with the United States squarely in his crosshairs. He condemned America for exploiting Africa's vast mineral wealth, meddling in its political affairs, and deploying NATO-style military tactics to maintain dominance. America doesn't come to Africa to help, it comes to control, Malema thundered, but we are done being controlled. His words ignited the crowd. He urged African nations to unite under revolutionary leadership and praised Captain Ibrahim Traoré as a true son of the soil, unbought and unbossed. The energy was electric. Young people waved Burkina Faso's flag and chanted anti-colonial slogans, uplifted by a leader who came not to patronize, but to empower. For many in the crowd, Malema's presence marked a rare moment, an external figure speaking with the heart of the people, not at them. A common enemy, pushing back against US military presence. A key point of unity between Julius Malema and Captain Ibrahim Traoré is their firm opposition to AFRICOM, the United States Africa Command. To them, AFRICOM isn't about security, it's about surveillance, influence, and neo-imperial control under the camouflage of counterterrorism. While Traoré had already expelled French troops from Burkina Faso, Malema's support is adding fuel to a growing Pan-African resistance against foreign military presence, particularly American. Security must not be outsourced to those who destabilized us in the first place, Malema roared, his voice cutting through the air like a battle cry. The crowd erupted in cheers. Their message is clear: Africa must protect itself on its own terms. Across the Sahel and beyond, youth activists tuned in, energized by a narrative that flips the story on foreign dominance. Even in nations still aligned with the West, young people are watching and beginning to question the true cost of so-called security partnerships. The fearless narrative, breaking away from dollar diplomacy. Malema's fiery critique went beyond foreign troops. It struck at the heart of global finance. He took aim at the IMF and World Bank, accusing them of orchestrating Africa's economic downfall through predatory lending practices. According to Malema, these institutions push loans laced with toxic conditions, locking African nations into cycles of dependency and underdevelopment. Debt is the new colonialism, he declared, and we will default with dignity if we must. The crowd roared. That bold statement didn't just grab headlines, it sent shockwaves across the continent. In a political landscape where most leaders voice discontent behind closed doors, Malema chose the podium, the spotlight, and the people. With Captain Traoré standing firmly beside him, the symbolism was undeniable. Africa's resistance is no longer silent or hidden. It's vocal, visible, and unapologetic. For many, this moment marked a shift. From passive frustration to active defiance, with revolutionary leaders daring to say what others won't. Youthful fire, the generational uprising. What binds Julius Malema and Captain Ibrahim Traoré even more tightly is their magnetic appeal to Africa's vast and restless youth population. With over 60% of Africans under the age of 25, both leaders understand where the continent's real power lies, and they're actively channeling it. Traoré, frequently seen in military fatigues and flanked by youthful soldiers, has become an emblem of anti-imperialist defiance. His image resonates with a generation tired of watching their futures dictated by aging elites and foreign interests. Malema, on the other hand, blends sharp rhetoric with streetwise charisma, rocking streetwear at one rally, then delivering thunderous speeches in tailored suits at another. Through social media, town halls, and fiery oration, he speaks directly to the disillusioned and disempowered. Old men sold us out, Malema told a rally crowd, but young people can rewrite the story. Together, Malema and Traoré are crafting a powerful narrative of generational justice. Their alliance represents more than political alignment. It's a rising tide of youth-led resistance determined to break free from systems that have looted Africa's present and mortgaged its future. The torch has passed, and it's burning hot. French exit, American fear, who's next? The dominoes began to fall when Mali and Burkina Faso expelled French troops. Soon after, Niger followed, signaling a regional shift that caught global powers off guard. Now, with Julius Malema amplifying the anti-Western message, a new wave is building, one that envisions a united Pan-African front aimed at eradicating all remnants of Western military infrastructure across the continent. Talks of a broader coalition are no longer whispers. Youth movements, revolutionary leaders, and resistance blocs are calling for the complete dismantling of foreign military bases, from the Sahel to the Horn of Africa. Washington has taken notice. AFRICOM has ramped up its counter-propaganda, while U.S. officials issue warnings about disinformation campaigns and Russian influence. But for many Africans, those warnings ring hollow. They see them as desperate attempts to maintain a grip that's already slipping. "What influence?" one student shouted during Malema's Q&A in Ouagadougou. "The only influence we feel is your boot on our neck." That sentiment captures a growing frustration. For decades, Africans were told foreign presence meant peace and development. Now, with bold voices like Malema and Traoré leading the charge, many are realizing that true liberation might begin by sending every last soldier home. From Pan-Africanism to action, a new regional bloc? Beyond the symbolism of their fiery speeches and anti-imperialist rhetoric, Julius Malema and Captain Ibrahim Traoré may be planting the seeds of a bold new regional alliance, an African bloc that rejects Cold War-style alignments with the West or East, and instead champions continental self-reliance. Call it AU 2.0, but with teeth. There's growing speculation that Malema's visit to Burkina Faso is just the beginning of a broader strategic tour, potentially extending to Guinea, Mali, and even Chad. Nations where resentment toward US and French interference simmers just below the surface. In these countries, the appetite for radical change is real, and Malema's message is resonating. If Malema manages to unite these states under a shared political and ideological framework, the implications could be nothing short of revolutionary. A new alliance could focus on tangible objectives: economic independence by breaking away from IMF and World Bank dependency, military cooperation free of foreign oversight, and digital sovereignty to protect African data from external surveillance. This isn't just about resisting the old world order, it's about creating a new one. And with youth backing, revolutionary leadership, and a shared sense of urgency, that future may be closer than many expected. Silencing the critics, a battle of narratives. Critics in the West, particularly from US think tanks, have labeled Julius Malema and Captain Ibrahim Traoré as reckless, dangerous, and anti-democratic populists. But on the streets of Ouagadougou, Johannesburg, Bamako, and Kinshasa, a different story is unfolding. Reckless, Malema scoffed during a recent interview. What's reckless is allowing 400 years of exploitation to continue. For Malema, African sovereignty isn't a luxury, it's an undeniable right. Those who oppose that right, he argues, are defending the interests of old empires, not democracy. This isn't just a battle over military bases or aid packages, it's a battle of narratives. The West, historically able to shape global discourse, is losing its grip on the African youth. As Malema and Traoré's message resonates, the power to define Africa's future is shifting. For the first time in a long while, the West is no longer the dominant voice in the conversation about Africa's destiny. The echo chamber breaks, social media as a weapon. Malema's media savvy has become one of his most powerful tools. Every speech, rally, and unscripted moment in Burkina Faso was live-streamed across platforms like TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram. Within hours, hashtags like #Africa Unites and #Bye Bye IMF were trending worldwide. The West's traditional media monopoly is rapidly crumbling. African youth no longer rely on CNN or BBC to shape their views. Instead, they follow Malema's live streams, repost Traoré's speeches, and remix them into viral music tracks that spread like wildfire. This is the digital revolution, and it's not crafted in Silicon Valley. It's being driven from Ouagadougou, powered by African hands, minds, and voices, reshaping the narrative and amplifying a new kind of global influence. Africa's future, sovereign or subdued? Malema's visit to Burkina Faso will be studied for years, not for the content of his speeches, but for what he symbolizes. The EFF leader has transcended his role as a South African politician to become a continental voice for resistance, one that resonates across Africa's borders. With Captain Ibrahim Traoré as a partner, not merely an ally, this movement has the potential to challenge the status quo in ways not seen since the days of Thomas Sankara, Patrice Lumumba, and Kwame Nkrumah. These revolutionary figures once rallied against imperialism, and Malema and Traoré now stand in a similar position, calling for a sovereign Africa free of foreign domination. However, the road ahead will not be smooth. Sanctions, smear campaigns, and destabilization tactics are likely already in the works to undermine their efforts. But if Malema and Traoré can withstand the pressure and hold their ground, they could inspire a domino effect that reshapes the African political landscape. A wave of resistance may follow, heralding a new era of African autonomy and self-determination. Closing the ranks, the call to Pan-Africanism grows louder. Back in South Africa, Malema's supporters are fired up, while Traoré's influence is rapidly growing across the Sahel. In diaspora communities across the US, UK, and France, African descendants are watching with cautious hope. Together, Malema's voice and Traoré's vision could represent the first serious challenge to Western dominance in Africa since the independence movements of the 1960s. Whether hailed as heroes or branded as rebels, one thing is clear: they're not waiting for permission. They are demanding a new Africa, one shaped by its own hands, and their movement is only gaining momentum. As Julius Malema steps onto Burkina soil, side by side with Captain Traoré, it's more than just a political visit. It's a statement to the world. Africa is no longer waiting for permission. To some, this partnership signals a rising tide of anti-imperialist unity, the kind of leadership that many African youths have been waiting for. To others, it's a dangerous game, provocative, risky, and likely to trigger sharp responses from Western powers. But one thing is certain: this isn't just about Burkina Faso or South Africa, it's about the future of the continent. Will this alliance usher in a new era of Pan-African cooperation and self-determination? Or are we witnessing the rise of a volatile bloc that could challenge global norms in ways we've never seen before? Only time will tell. Thanks for tuning in. If you believe Africa is writing its own story, hit that like button and let your voice be heard in the comments. Subscribe and tap the bell. We'll be bringing you real-time updates as this story unfolds. Until next time, stand tall, stay critical, and never underestimate the power of an idea whose time has come.